All right. What's up, everybody? This is Chris from Don't Let Them Burn. And I just want to thank you guys for the support. We're going to be talking about Marxism tonight. So I'm kind of waiting for some people to join us in the chat room here. But this is an important subject that I don't think that a lot of people understand, and I'm going to try to break down some of it tonight. Hey, what's up, Rhonda? This is a symptom of the heart of man. Marxism, socialism, communism. And if you don't have a grip on this, you will never understand what's really going on in politics, tech, world government, and all these things that, you know, some of us try to quantify, but we don't really get it because we don't know the history. I'm not going to go through the whole history today because I haven't even finished doing all of my reading on it. But if you look into guys like Nietzsche and Karl Marx and a whole bunch of other dictators that are communist and just against anything normal, you will see that this is going to be, well, I should say, this is the stuff that's in the background right now. You're wondering why people are fighting so hard against Trump. There's a reason for that. And it's not just because they hate him. It's not just because he's a bad person or he's a racist, bigot, homophobic, you know, xenophobic. Those are the buzzwords you hear coming out of Hillary Clinton's mouth, out of the UN, out of all this transgender, LGBT, all this stuff. Well, there's a direct link to Marxism. I'm just warming up right here so some more people can get in the chat. But if you understand this whole concept, it's about world government, global dictatorship. And that word right there, dictatorship, you gotta, you know, go and look at the past dictators. They've always taken away the guns, you know, disarm the people, and what comes next? Depopulation, death. And this is what these people are trying to do. I know it sounds far-fetched to some of you, but I'm going to lay some stuff out for you tonight. And let me just start to begin here. And I'm going to go to this guy right here. His name is Saul Alinsky. Many of you probably haven't heard of this dude, but he was a community organizer, as you can see there on the screen. And most of these community organizers, not all, but most of them are Marxist. And remember, there was a day back in America when communism was the thing to look. You know, you get arrested if you're a communist. You get arrested if you were anything near the Communist Party. You know, and so communism is now kind of watered down to something called socialism. It's the same thing. It's just a different word, a little watered down or whatever. And so this dude right here, he's not the start of it, of course. He's just somebody that's been, you know, there he goes. You know, he's born in 1909. And where did he come up? Chicago, where Barack Obama started his community organization. All right. So why am I showing you this guy? And why is it important? Well, let's go to this. Here's a book called Rules for Radical. Rule for Radicals. And here you go, the quote here. It says, "What? Lest we forget at least one over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical, right? From all our legends, mythologies, and history, and who is to know where mythology leaves off and history begins, or which is which, the first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did it so efficiently to be at least won his own. He at least won his own kingdom, Lucifer. That is who his book is dedicated to. Understand that? His book is dedicated to the devil, to the Nakash, to Satan, to the prince of the air. Right? So you have to wonder, why is he so important to Hillary Clinton? That's her mentor. And also, one of the other people she looks up to is the person that started Planned Parenthood, which is Margaret Sanger. Right? And she, of course, was a racist. She started Planned Parenthood, and I'm getting to a little bit of that a little bit later. But pay attention to this guy. Look him up. Look what he was all about, and you know, Hillary Clinton's there and everything. And also, you gotta look that Barack Obama was also influenced by this guy. So these are little trails for you to follow, right? And I want to go into the methods they use. Now, if you notice, what they'll do is, if you're like in like a deposition, like Diamond and Silk, they went to, I think, a Congress or something, and they did deposition, and the people that were drilling them kept pushing a narrative like they were taking money from the Trump campaign, and they kept saying we never got money from the Trump, but they were the people asking the question kept pushing it, and they kind of wouldn't let them answer. That's one of the tactics. You can't let the people answer the question. You have to kind of badger them. Okay, it's a tactics used by lawyers too, right? And then also, when it comes to these political rallies and stuff, you'll see that like Antifa and all these other people, they won't let people speak, won't let people interview them, and they'll just keep badgering you or throwing piss on you and all these things. I've seen it over and over again. It's a tactic because they cannot let you have a voice. The voice that I have right now, I'm not supposed to have because they don't want me to have that voice. And I usually don't even talk about politics that much on the show, but it's something that we have to touch because we have to know the tactics. Saul Alinsky, his rules for radicals is their playbook. That's the playbook, right? So another thing they teach is, okay, so all right, let me back up a little bit. When you see Donald Trump get elected, right, and then you see all this vitriol coming to him from the mainstream media, what do you see? You see them throwing accusations, bringing up phony this, phony that, whatever. And I'm not saying the man is a perfect man. Of course he's not. None of us are. However, this whole Russiagate conspiracy, it's a tactic because when you look at the evidence, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were the ones that were dealing with the Russians and some other people too. They turned that narrative around and said, no, you're the one that did it. And now the mainstream media focuses on who? Donald Trump, instead of the people that were actually involved. Uranium One and all these other things. That's a tactic. And we have to be mindful of that to understand the whole picture. Okay? These tactics it's nothing but witchcraft. And I know that's a strong word to use. But as one person, a practicing witch, actually stated, you know, when you go into the grimoire and all these ancient books, casting a spell is not potions and all these things. That's maybe a little part of it, whatever, but that's not it's spelling it out, using the words to speak it into existence. I mean, people take that as a biblical thing, but that's nothing but the force. That's the demonic power. Exactly, witchcraft and manipulation, Mr. Floor Worker. So I'm going to explain a little bit of that too. So, okay, we have you get that concept at least, right? So let me go into this right now. This is I was on Through the Black Jared and Tom's channel, and I was explaining this a little bit. I don't like to explain it too much because then it gets into teaching it. So this is called, let me make my screen a little smaller so you can see. It's called Neuro-linguistic programming. And this is basically the same thing as witchcraft. It's where you use the words to manipulate the person or people that you're talking to. This is used all the time. It's used all the time. It's used in bad churches. It's used in the media. It's used all over the place. At conferences, depending on where you're going, it could be New Age, could be just self-help or whatever, and some of those are tied in all together anyway. And it's about, okay, so if I had a woman that I wanted to date, but she was too pretty, she was too, you know, intimidating for me, if I take these practices, I can get that woman no matter what, because I know how to manipulate the words to get her to you know, pay attention to me. And I would point out different things about her that she would be conscious of. Like I would say, you know, what's that on your face? And she'd be like, oh no, what do you mean? And then that starts a dialogue, and then I could start manipulating her more, right? I'll tell you an incident that I did when I was younger, in my 20s. I went to a club, and it was a VIP section, and a group of young ladies that came in from out of town. I went over to one, and I started asking her about, you know, herself. And I said, you know, I could tell you stuff about yourself. And she was like, oh yeah, really? And I said, yeah, tell me something about your job. And she told me things that she liked. And I said, okay, this is your character right here. This is about you. This is this and this and this. This is what you like, and da 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 da. And she's like, wow, you know, this is amazing. And already right there, I know, you know, you got her hooked. And this was just an experiment for me. I never slept with her, never, nothing. But I'm going to tell you anyway, right? And then I said, okay, tell me some bad stuff about your job that you don't like. Oh, she told me about the manager, this, that, and the other, what she don't like. And I said, you know, you're this type of person right here. You don't like this, but you like to go this way, and da 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 da. And immediately, she lit up more. She started asking me about myself, offered me a job, wanted to smoke weed. I don't even smoke weed. And all this stuff. And so these are the tactics, using the words. Let me give you another instance. The same witch that was explaining this said, the words that you use, his name is Alan Moore, by the way, he's a comic book writer. The words that you use through commercials, satire, can control the public consciousness. See what I'm saying? So if they're controlling the public consciousness through commercials, the media in general, and not all media is bad, I'm just talking about the bad stuff here, then guess what? They're able to move us in certain directions, herd us like cattle, you know? Back in the 60s, where all this stuff coming in from India through the Beatles and Merv Griffin and some people, they bought in the yoga and all this stuff. But because the yoga, the Hinduism, which is yoga, same thing, they had to, it had a kind of like a bad rap at that time because of Eastern mysticism. So they had to kind of rebrand themselves as a scientific form. So they started giving different titles and names for their practices. And through the Beatles, Merv Griffin, and other celebrities, this was brought into America. And from there on, the sexual revolution and all this stuff came in, and then everything skyrocketed upwards. From the chart goes like this, okay? So sexual immorality, pregnancy, murders, all this stuff. And it's not just because of yoga. I'm just saying they rebranded themselves. And now what you see everywhere, New Age, yoga, spiritism, in every facet of life. Why? It's not just because the words, they were spoken on television, on late night television, and through other media's paraphernalia, you know, magazines, whatever, and it was pushed and pushed and pushed. And as society moved away from God, guess what happened? We accepted it more. I can't remember the phrase, but it's something like, what one generation doesn't accept, the next one will. There's a reason for that. Because as we move away from God, we start to decline and get more immoral. And that's even going into all the music and everything too, the movies. It's a big cultural a way to move the culture in so many ways. So moving on from NLP now, I want to explain something here. This is called, let me fix my screen here. It's called a Cloward-Piven, strategy. Move my mouse here, right? And this is a strategy that you must understand once you start to get Marxism, okay? So as you read there, it says Cloward-Piven strategy is a political strategy outlined in 1966, around the same time as Saul Alinsky, right? By American sociologists and political activists Richard Cloward and Francis Fox Piven, that called for overwhelming the U.S. public welfare system in order to precipitate a crisis that would lead to the replacement of the welfare system with a national system of a guaranteed annual income that thus end poverty, right? That's Marxism. That's communism. That's socialism. Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up is because certain racial groups are targeted with this. Blacks, Hispanics, anybody in a lower demographic that's not elite, right? And the way this works is once the government starts giving you money, because, okay, let me back up. When you go and get a job or start a career, you work towards that paycheck. You work towards that goal. When you're playing a video game like Call of Duty, you're getting kills, racking up points, prestige, and prestige means you reach to the next level and the next level, and when you reach to a 10th prestige or a 20th prestige, there's nothing else to do. So you could reset it, but if that was given to you right away, you wouldn't work for it. You wouldn't work for the points. You wouldn't work for the check. The government's giving you money, and now you're like, I could sit home or I could do some crime or whatever it is you do. Some people are not committing crimes. They're just being lazy. And that's communism. They give you the government, the big government, bloated government gives you money to sit on your butt. And then it's been talked about for the future that they want to implement a global well, you got the credit system, and like it said here, this guaranteed annual income. Basically, everybody would get the same income. Okay? Level playing field. If you go to, I think, America2050.com, you'll see the mega cities they want to build. And what would happen is that the robots that would take over, they would herd us into these big mega cities or smart cities and give us all the same income. So there wouldn't be this growth of career and everything that's America and the Western civilization is built on, making businesses, making opportunities for our families, saving, all this stuff would be wiped out. It would be total control. So I want to point that out because it's very important that a lot of people don't know about this strategy. Okay, and as you see it, what they say, they want to overload the welfare system. Okay, and that brings us to another point: mass immigration. Right? So everybody's talking about Trump, you know, saying he doesn't like immigrants and all that, which is a fallacy. He never said that. They always take the words. It's another plot to it. They take the words and shift them, take them out of context, and give you the little headline, and then you're like, oh, he must have said that, but you've never read the article, you never heard what he actually said. The same thing happened the other day when Kanye West went into TMZ and he started saying what he started to say. Basically what he said was slavery was a choice. And I knew exactly what he was saying the minute he said it. And everybody's twisting it, saying that he's saying that people basically wanted to be enslaved or whatever they thought. What he's saying is the mentality. You have X amount of people that were enslaved. It was more than their oppressors. But they stayed there for what? Hundreds of years? He's right. The mentality. They were basically trained to love their servitude, even though they didn't love it. They wanted to be set free, but they didn't know how. The smart ones would get, killed. So you can't have any smart slaves. And if you do, then you're going to have him come into the house and work with you, and then he'll be separated from the other one, so there can't be an uprising. Okay? So now the mass immigration, this is happening in Europe a lot. There's a lot of rapes in Sweden, murders, England, the whole of Europe is basically on the mass immigration. And the reason for this is exactly this. One, overload the welfare system. What do you call it? Destabilize the country that this is happening in. This is what they're trying to bring to America, by the way. Remember, America is the last bastion, the last place in the Western world that basically still holds to some Christian values, and we're normalized in Christian, not Christian, but Western industry. Okay, so we could still grow businesses and all this stuff. But if we were to flood America with a bunch of immigrants, or illegal immigrants in most cases, from war-torn countries that don't really care about America, they're going to come in and they're not going to assimilate to our system. Okay? What will happen then is, even from Mexico, all these places, now some people come here legally, some people just don't. Okay? And some people are flown in through corrupt government. Right? So if that happens, it will start destabilizing our economy, our way of life. It would cause chaos. There's one incident, I can't remember where it was in, I think 2015, 2016, somewhere around there, where life started breaking out in certain states in America because of the illegal immigration of certain Mexicans. And it was a problem. I don't even know if it still exists, but it was a problem at the time. Now I'm going to give you another instance where it was, can't remember what state, but a young girl, maybe around 12, 13, 14, got raped by some other Somalians that were about her age, but you hear nothing about it. It's being covered up. Okay? Then another instance, this guy ran into a restaurant with a machete, yelling Allahu Akbar, and he tried to chop people up. He didn't get through to, doing what he was doing, but that's what happened. And so this United Nations that I spoke about yesterday, remember I mentioned Alice Bailey's 12-point charter? This thing is so dangerous, and I should have pulled it up, and I probably will in a minute. The United Nations is right now the one world government. Okay? When you hear the term peace and security, like from out the Bible, they use that. It's one of their pillars in their whole organization, peace and security. You're going to hear them say it all the time. And what did God say? When they start yelling peace and security, sudden destruction is going to come down on them, right? But in the meantime, before that happens, they're pushing these plans all over the world for depopulation on the crux of evolution, and then total global control. But they're not putting it, this is another strategy too, let me point out. They never use terms that are flammable, let's call it that, right? They use terms that you like. Community. Community. I explained this yesterday. Community is a word that they use all the time. But it's not what you think. In fact, I said this in the Beyonce video I did. Community is basically an idea that links back to the global brain We all have to think on the same accord. Okay? There's something out there called the I think it's called the Strong Cities Initiative. In fact, you know what? Let me look it up right now, because I don't want to miss this. I might have spelled that wrong, but whatever. I really want you guys to not ignore the Strong Cities Initiative, okay? Let's see. This is the last Attorney General that we had, Loretta Lynch. She was in the UN. You need to look up the videos so that you can see the evidence of this. And she was talking to them about all this strong city stuff. Basically, what this is, if you do more research on it, it's the global police force. It could end up to be oh my gosh, what's the name of that UN police peacekeeping force? I can't remember right now. NATO. It could end up being that, but it would be a global police force that wouldn't have any oversight as far as, like, okay, under our Constitution, right? And anyone that goes against the global brain, the AI, or the way of thinking, this global police force will handle that worldwide. So it hasn't been brought in yet into America, because I believe God is stopping it right now, and all the stuff going on with Trump, that's probably pushing it back too right now. So it's very important to understand this too. The Strong Cities Initiative, global police force, right? So as you can see, there's a whole communist, socialist agenda that will take the world over eventually. I think right now America is just being, I think God has given us a reprieve of sort, right? But something's going to happen. Something's going to happen to where the America that we know won't exist anymore. I'm not talking about us getting destroyed or something like that. I'm talking about our system, our Constitution. Another reason with the mass immigration. Imagine a lot of these people coming in. They don't assimilate to our structure. They get the welfare, but they say F America. You can go online and see all that stuff too. They're saying F America, we don't care, we want our money, blah, blah, blah. Imagine, let's just say Trump gets 8 years, and I think he will. And you get 8 years of somebody else, whoever that person be. If he's a bad person now, don't you think, with all the manipulation going on in the media, that people will vote Democratic? Vote on the side of the people that are giving them the handouts. That's what's going to happen, right? Now, America is a republic, but let's just say it became a democracy. Now the UN has enough power to start stripping away things out of that democratic order, that democracy. It's a total different system, okay? Bear all that in mind. There's a lot to talk about with this. let me go into the 12-point charter. Let me see what I could pull up here. Give me a second here. Any questions in the chat room? I don't have all the answers, but you know, I can answer some questions, I think. Let me see. Alice Bailey, 12-point charter, and we're gonna look at this, and we're gonna look at the book called The Neuro Order. We're gonna look at something out of that, right? Let's see. This is one place. I don't know any of the videos here. I'm just pulling this up, but it's pretty on point. So, what was the first thing in their system? It said here, take God and prayer out of the educational system. Has that not already happened many years ago? Right? And then number 2 is destroy the Judeo-Christian family structure, or the traditional Christian family structure. Right? Now, that is basically what Hollywood is doing, the mass media, There's directors that have been on record saying that's what they want to do. Go watch the documentary Hollywood Unmasked 1 and 2. You'll see all the evidence you need to see. All right. What does it say now? It says, if sex is free, then make abortion legal and make it easy. Right? So I'm telling you, somebody just asked a question about the abortion. If they're creating magic that's putting a spell on the left. Well, I don't know if it's putting a spell on the left, but I think it's all some sort of idea of magic with a K, sex magic and all this stuff. And it's basically human sacrifice. If you look at it, it goes back to Baal worship, Molech, same thing. Either Baal, sometimes it's a owl, sometimes it's a cow. And through the Bible, through the Old Testament, this was one of the dominant so-called gods, the little g, that dominated in those times. And today it's still around, of course, just an evil entity. But I think, yeah, they are using abortion, obviously, for depopulation. And if you ever saw the movie, and I had something on this too the other day, but I didn't prepare to talk about this tonight. But if you look at the movie Monsters Inc., what happened? How did the monster get their energy? They got it off of the screams of kids, and they made it seem fun and all this stuff. And then you have the movie The Dark Tower, and in The Dark Tower is two realms, our realm and I would call it the spiritual realm. They made it look like Earth, but whatever. There were kids trapped in these seats that they would use the fear, the screams, and whatever it is that they're using these kids for, to the energy from that to bust open the veil, so that the two words could combine. That's the Dark Tower. I mean, I didn't read the books, but I watched the movie and it was kind of boring. But I looked at that symbolism. So yeah. So let's move on here, and it says, oh no, let me not move on yet. If sex is free, then make abortion legal and make it easy. Right? So that's going back to Margaret Sanger and all this stuff. You need to check out this movie, Marfa 21. I recommend this to people all the time. All the time. Marfa 21. Yes, it's about black genocide, but look at it beyond that. Because the people that did this documentary, I don't know if they're Christian or not, it doesn't matter. What's in there is accurate. The elites have a program, and Margaret Sanger followed this. She was in touch with all sorts of elite people. The person that created Wonder Woman, he was in touch with her, or his lover, that was her aunt, right? And he was a racist too, very hard racist, feminist, blah blah blah. And feminist also is a product of communism, but feminism can be traced back to the Garden of Eden if you do your research. So this is one of the best movies I've seen, documentaries that I've seen on black genocide, on abortion, and all this stuff. I mean, back to the welfare system back then, they would, if a woman, not all women, but certain women, if they had, if they were on welfare, and the welfare people wanted them to have an abortion, they would hold back the food so they couldn't eat, and then you'd have to get the abortion, then get your government cheese or whatever that is. Just a little tidbit there into everything that we're talking about here. And so let's go back to the charter now. And also we got to look into what we talked about earlier, the sexual revolution. That was a whole part of it. Now remember, Alice Bailey is she wrote, I think it's the 20 volumes of the occult, so she was in contact with demons, writing these books, getting the term automatic writing came from Aleister Crowley because he was in contact with spirits. I think one of them was named Lamb, They had another one, Osiris, or he thought he was talking to Osiris, whatever. And through that, he would get the automatic writings, and that's the term ghostwriter. That's, everybody uses the term ghostwriter nowadays, but that's where it comes from, right? Now, you have make divorce easy and legal, free people from the concept of marriage for life. And this is thrown about in our entertainment all the time. All the time. You meet a girl, you go sleep with her. No matter how long you know each other, it could be 30 seconds or one night or 2 months. You don't look for marriage, you look for fun. It's a great time, nothing's gonna go wrong. Safe sex, blah 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 blah. You guys, you all seen this stuff before. So, and the divorce rate is now to the point where people in the church are getting divorced more than people in the world. That's the issue. So, let's move on to number 6. It says make homosexuality an alternative lifestyle. And what have you been seeing coming about for the last 20, 30 years? A slow progression towards this. Slow progression, but now it's head on. Homosexual marriage, Supreme Court decision, blah blah blah. It's because of this. It's not just the LGBT LMNOP wanting this. This is about Marxism, communism, socialism, and what they're doing, they're using these people for their agenda. That's all it is. They're setting them up. I remember when this thing passed, a lot of homosexual stuff was going on back in what was this, 2016? Was it 2016 when the club shooting happened? I believe so, right? And I said to my friend, I said, I think these homosexuals are getting set up for something. And no kidding you, a week, 2 weeks later, the Orlando club shooting happened. And lo and behold, it's a homosexual club, and we all know it was a false flag and all this stuff. And I said, yo, I told you something not right. Anyway, if you look back at Hitler's time, they did the same thing. And they used the homosexual, and they end up killing them later. Blah 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 blah. Just look into the history, you'll see what I'm talking about. So anyway, now it's a so-called alternative lifestyle. We know it as sin, and what can I say? It is what it is. People have to really see what these things are, because the Bible talks about this stuff all the time. It's all over the Bible. It's not in one place here, one place there, one place. No, it's in there a lot. And I don't have the scripture verses in front of me right now, but if you know your Bible, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I remember the days when homosexuality, you can get arrested for it. In some places, you get killed. In Jamaica, where I come from, you get bottles thrown at you. You could not come out, and people know about it. Now, in Jamaica even, you can walk around proud. So it's a global thing, okay? So now it says debase art and make it run mad. That's another thing that people are not seeing. The architecture, the ugly paintings, the ugly things that people call art. That it's not art. You put a splash of paint on something and it's art now. I mean, come on, really? I'm an artist, by the way. This is to dumb down the senses, to make you like things that shouldn't be liked. I'll give you an instance. They did a survey with some conservatives and some liberals, and it was about showing them disgusting things like maggots and whatever. And the conservatives were like, ugh. And the liberals were, they liked it. So it's showing you that there is a mental disease out there. You can go look up that survey for yourself. Okay, so the art, the architecture, and all this stuff, just look that up. And then now it says they use the media to promote and change mindset. We talked about this earlier. This is what they're doing. Once they control the media, because they didn't have control of the media before. It was controlled somewhat, right? And now you have most of the media controlled by these Marxists. And some of them are undercover. Some of them seem like they're not Marxists, but they are. And once you control the media, I'm telling you, it's just like in Hitler's day. Hitler is a precursor to what's going on right now. He used the theater to control the masses, to control the minds of people. Okay? And this is what we have to pay attention to here. It's obvious, but you know, if you're not really getting the information from different points of view, then you might miss it. Okay, so 9 is create an interfaith movement. Listen. This could be traced back to, I think, 1984. I think I talked about this yesterday. And the Pope, they bought people in, the fire worshippers, snake worshippers, this worshipper, that worshiper, so-called Christians, to have this ecumenical meeting. And they did it a couple times. But this is what the Bible talks about, the one world religion. You see it here. It's in her charter. Why? The Bible talks about the Antichrist and how he will bring forth the one world religion. And then once they do that, he will go into the temple of God, the rebuilt temple, the third temple, and declare himself God, and that's the only God that they should worship. So it's all a setup. So now you see stuff like Chrislam, and there's one cult that's in Georgia. They got raided by the FBI the other day, but nothing. I don't think anything came out of it. But they were mixing Judaism, a little bit of Christianity, Egyptology, and something else to form this cult. Right? So it's the blending of different belief systems to kumbaya together so that they can march into this new world order, into this new age of tech and becoming gods and all this stuff that's out there now today. So much stuff to talk about. So I hope you have a handle on that. You need to research more on that. I'll probably talk about it a little bit more when I get a whole show ready for that. And so now we go to number 10. Right? Get governments to make these law and get the church to endorse the changes. This is something that people just don't understand is going on. There are a lot of churches out there that are apostate. And it's not just because the church split, you know, or all these different reasons. You have Masons infiltrating the church, owning churches. Not just Masons, there's other stuff too. You got atheists that are coming out of seminary, out of Bible college, running churches. There's all sorts of areas in this that, you know, you start breaking it down, you take forever to talk about it. But to get the church to accept it, the church has to move away from, guess what, the faith. The church has to move away from traditional values and all this stuff, because the church that will be, let's just say, the false church, they will accept anything. And that's what we're seeing today. We see the Lutheran church accepting LGBT, this and that. We see the person that wrote the Message Bible, he's now for homosexual marriages. We see, like I said before, the Chrislam, Saddleback Rick Warren. We see T. Jakes and the the Megafest, the stuff that go on there. there's so many people I can name. We have the false teachers, the Joyce Myers, the Creflo Dollars, and this one dude. I can't remember his name right now. He's a guy that tells jokes all the time in his sermon, but he's a Word of Faith teacher, and he's asking for, I think, 58 million or something like that for whatever plane, just like Creflo Dollar did. Okay, so you don't think that all of these people will be accepting this once they've already accepted it? Kenneth Copeland, the Pope had a meeting with him, and they said that Protestants need to get over whatever happened in the past and come back to Catholicism. And this also goes along with the UFO movement, but that's another show. I'm gonna have a couple shows on that stuff. But we see the Catholic, the Vatican, Lucifer telescope. We could baptize aliens and all this stuff. So it's still going back to this. You make the laws because laws are gonna come and are coming and are here in certain countries. Canada's getting extreme. Pastors have to turn in their sermon sometimes to make sure they're not talking about Muslims and homosexuals and, you know, all this stuff. You know, some of these things are starting to happen in our states now. They're going to change the laws so that the church will be muzzled. And once they do that, pastors will be taken to jail because true biblical teachers are not going to stop talking the word of God. Right? They're not going to stop. I won't. You know, jail time, losing your job, all these things, because they have to strip away what is dear to you, or take you to jail, or worse. Right? Now, going back to so we just covered all the 10 points of Alice Bailey, and I need to look up another thing real quick. In fact, you know, I need to look that up now. I should have had this prepared. Sorry, guys. This is also important. This is from the book, The New World Order. I have it here. I saw it back in 1994, I think, when it came out, right? And it has something in there that goes along with the 10-point charter here. New World Order book. Right? And let's see if it comes up here. All right, here we are. Now, if you see this graphic and you can read it well, do you see what it says there? It says the New World Order will include changes to the family. Homosexual marriage will be legalized. This is in 1994 here. 1989, sorry. Written in 1989. And I got it in 1994. Homosexual marriage will be legalized. Parents will not be allowed to raise their children. The state will. All women will be employed by the state and not allowed to be homemakers. Divorce will become exceedingly easy, and monogamous marriage will be slowly phased out. That's one point. This is the same stuff we just read from the charter that the UN uses to cause change, right? We just saw this happen in the last couple of years. It's legal now. This guy's not a prophet. It's because he's reading their writings and telling you what they're saying. This is coming from the secret societies, the people that keep things on the hush, but sometimes they put it in front of you so you can know, right? Now here goes the workplace. The government will become the owner of the of all the factors of production. The private ownership of property will be outlawed. It's communism. Socialism. You see where I'm going here from the beginning to where I'm at, where we're at now? Now, it says religion. Religion will be outlawed and believers will be either eliminated or imprisoned there will be a new religion, the worship of man and his mind. All will believe in the new religion, right? Now, can anybody in the chat room tell me what the new religion will be? That's the question, and I have the answer for you. Because right now, we think that there are many religions in this world. There's only two. And I'm writing a book about this. There's only Bible Christianity and witchcraft. That's it. All of these different religions are telling you the same thing, just a different twist. This is why I keep bringing up the Force, the Tao, the Chi, 48 Laws of Power, the Yin and the Yang, the left-hand path, right-hand path. They all mean the same thing. There's more names for it. I'm gonna write a book, and I guess you guys will get it when I release it. But I'm not gonna tell you the title either. But can anybody in the chat room tell me what the new religion is? I'll give you a few seconds. It's very easy to figure out, because this stuff has been in the news for months now. And it has to do with tech. Tech will be the new religion. But the Antichrist is going to take that over. People are going to want to worship AI, artificial intelligence, for those that don't know. And I know I sound like a madman, but go look it up. It's in national newspapers. It's in international newspapers. The new religion will surround tech. And the Antichrist, like I said before, is going to declare himself God. Declare himself God in the new rebuilt temple in Israel. So here we go. We have the United Nations. We have the European Union. We have the world divided up into 10 states already, 10 countries. In the Bible, it talks about 10 horns. And then an 11th horn comes out, right? It's all there in the Bible, okay? But you have to go and search it out. You have to, listen, you need to be diligent in reading the Bible and eschatology. I'm going to lay something on you so you understand why there's so many different confusions about rapture and timing of when is the Antichrist going to show up and all this other stuff. I'm going to school, by the way, I'm in Bible college. There's 7 different forms of hermeneutics. Hermeneutics is basically interpretation. And the traditional form is historical, grammatical, historical, literal. The other forms, they variate from that, and then you start to they variate so much that you start to make up things. You can make up anything you want to. You can make it allegory, you can make it canonical, well, not canonical, but basically dogmatic, like the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church says, if we're not the one interpreting it for you, everything is wrong. Only us. That's a form of interpretation, because they're doing it and they're saying it, this is what's right, and only we have that answer. You can't look it up for yourself, okay? And I'll probably do a show about this, because this is the education that I'm getting. I understand now why there's so many different denominations. It's because of the way the Bible is being interpreted. When you see somebody say that you could speak into existence and it's a Christian, they don't realize that they're using Hindu tactics. But that's what they're being taught in the church. You speak it as it is. You speak it so it could be reality. I birthed it. So, okay, if you could birth it without God's will being involved, why aren't you a millionaire? Why aren't you why isn't your sickness being healed? It's not because you don't have enough faith, right? Because God could heal anybody. Why is there so much turmoil in your life? Why can't you stop your aging if you could just speak it into existence? That's the same witchcraft we were talking about earlier. So all these forms of hermeneutics, and I can go into a long spiel about the witchcraft, but the different forms of interpretation is why we are at such confusion. And let's just talk about rapture for a minute. And most of my listeners know I'm preacher, but I'm not here to make a big argument about that. If you're not, I don't care. I don't argue about this stuff. The point is, if the rapture was to happen now or 10 years from now, we'd all be happy because we're all Christians. Okay? But ask yourself these questions. From Revelation 9, the church is not mentioned until Revelation 14, I believe, when Christ comes back. Why is that? Why is it that in Revelation, in the midst of all the turmoil, there is, some say the 144,000, and they make a great case for it, will be preaching the gospel. Let's just say that is what it is, right? But even if they weren't there to preach the gospel, right? Why is there only one angel, just one, going around the globe preaching the gospel? Where's the church? You gotta ask yourself these questions. That's if you're reading and interpreting the Bible right. That's where all this confusion is coming from. And there's many ways, many things to talk about. But let's keep on our track, right? So we have this newer order. We have witchcraft being spoken into the air, spoken into your mind, moving the public consciousness. Those that are awake, that are saved, we know what's going on, but sometimes we get entangled into these little differences. We have to have a grip on Bible prophecy from the book of Daniel to Ezekiel, Isaiah, the Gospels, Revelation, on to Ephesians. You know, it's Bible. The book of the Bible, the 66th book, is all prophecy. I can't even leave a book out. It prophesied Christ coming, the way he would die, his death on the cross. It prophesied nations. God doesn't need witchcraft to cut through your soul, to save you. God uses his word, the real, written, living word. Because the word was with God. You go to see John, go to John, you'll see the word where the word was with God. That's Jesus. Right? So he used that. But man is twisting everything with the help of demons. I went into that a little bit yesterday, and I'll probably just do a whole show on that, because we have to keep some of these things in mind. When Moses and them came out of Egypt, God defeated all the gods of Egypt. That's what that was about. He defeated every single god. So people were contacting demons from a long time ago. That's why you have shamanism. Shamanism is witchcraft. You have these movies that are showing it to you in your face all the time. The Black Panther, the this, the that. And I'm going to break down a lot of these things. And this stuff just seeps into the church because the culture has declined. I remember the days when, some of these movies wouldn't be talked about in the church at all. How everybody in the church is watching and indulging and all this stuff. I'm old enough to know, and I'm not saying even the churches I went to were perfect, but there was a time when things were just better. And we're coming to a time now where we've been talking about for years. I used to, I'm not even deeply into a lot of Alex Jones, but I watched a lot of his movies. And even he's on an allegorical interpretation of the Bible. He believes you're going to transcend, go to space, and all this other stuff. I'm nothing against Alex Jones, but that's not right. The Bible doesn't teach that. All right? And yes, you're right. The tares have infiltrated the church. Listen, if you're not going to a church that teaches the whole counsel of God, then you gotta find somewhere good, man. I could recommend all type of teachers, but God will put you where He wants you. He put me where He wanted me, you know. And you hear it all the time. I can't find a good church. I can't find a good church. I can't find a good church. I can't find it. Why? The Bible talked about the time where people will be falling away from the faith and heeding to doctrines of demons. Itching ears. They want to hear what they want to hear. All this stuff. So I just want to encourage you guys to search it all out. Share this program. You know, the topic of evolution goes along with this stuff. If you're being inundated with it all the time in your entertainment. So, and I'm not telling you what to watch, what to listen to, but stay in the Word of God. A person wrote in our comment section the other day saying, help. What do we watch as Christians to be entertained? I can't tell you what to watch. I can't be, you know, the guy that's legalistic. That's between you and God. If you watch a program and it's bothering your soul, stop. If you're watching something that has too much nudity in it, any nudity is bad, but let's just say it's over the top or whatever, stop. If you're training your flesh is going to react. The Bible talks about you being salt and light. And how can light mix with darkness? Can't. Oil and water don't mix. You know? So you have to stay in the Word of God. Listen, go into 1 John. I'm for my research paper, I read 1 John this morning, and still have to do more research in it. And it convicts you. If you see yourself moving towards sin, get into the Word. Watch how you turn around. And God is going to bring things back in your mind that if you read the Word before, He's going to bring it up. You know, He's not going to, because we're not robots, so He's not going to stop you, but He gave you the power to stop. Think about that. Go into Colossians 3 and read. Colossians 3, read it. It tells you how to live your life. I mean, the whole Bible does, but go to Colossians 3. And you won't be disappointed. And you see, we look into all these things, and they're very important. The communism and the world government and all this stuff. Very important topics, especially for your kids that are being raised. But a lot of us miss the point of holiness. Holiness. Holiness to God. Holiness to God. That's what needs to be had here. Listen, He tells you to be holy, for I am holy. Yeah, we know we won't be perfect, but He's telling you you can at least reach for it. Right? Doesn't mean you have to go and be a hermit. Doesn't mean you have to you know, be secluded from society. That's not good, right? Because He wants you to go into the world. As you're living every day, you're going into the world. That's what that means. As you live, you go and you tell people about Christ. But if our life is full with sin, all of this knowledge of, you know, the New World Order and the witchcraft, that means nothing, because you're still dead in your sins, or you're backslidden, or, you know, cursing up a storm. As a Christian, it tells us to have clean mouths. Clean mouths. Be a peculiar people. People need to be attracted to you. Attracted to why you're so happy, why you just radiate holiness. And that's what that's my message for tonight. And for you that are listening that aren't saved, I'm just telling you, call out to God. He loves you. And I know that's the cliche of the year or the decade. God loves you. He's love. Yes, he is. He's all that. But he's also a righteous judge. And he came down from on high, from heaven, to sacrifice his life, his blood for you. And he's your advocate if you will take the free gift. Free gift. Just imagine, there's a free gift, and all you have to do is believe and accept it, and the world continually rejects. You know, the way to hell is wide, the road is wide, and the way to salvation is narrow. And it says only a few find it. Only a few. Imagine that. There's going to be a lot of people in hell, man. And the thing about hell is, you might be there for 1 day, 1 second, 300 years, however long it takes once you die. And then you're taken out of that and placed in front of God in the great white throne judgment, judged. And it says that hell and everything in it gets tossed into the lake of fire. Just imagine that. You just, oh my gosh, I thought that was going to be forever. And you're in front of God. And he's like, well, I'm going to judge you. Da 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 da. All right, off into the lake of fire. Forever is a long time. Non-stop. Never ends. Eternity. You don't want to be there. So if you're not saved, you need to get saved today. And I just want you guys to like and share, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and just take this message to heart, and really stay in the Word, Christians. Stay in the Word, and try to get away from false teaching. And that's our show for tonight. Don't let them burn.